PHNX live on a Friday. Welcome in your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. He's Bull Brock. I'm Johnny Venerable. Leave us a like. Drop us a subscription wherever you get your podcasts. And let me first start off by saying, Bull Brock, got some egg on my face. I am very excited that Sean Payton is not the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals today on a football Friday. I just want to get that off my chest. I've eaten all my crow.
Yeah.
I've put away. I've archived all the footage from November to February of us gushing over Sean Payton. I'm glad I'm not a Denver Bronco fanatic today. Can I just say that?
No, I agree with you. I'm right there with you, and I want to express my sincere apology to those of you who were on that hype train in January and February before Jonathan Gannon was hired. You know, when we were there and Cam Cox and 12 News was showing the footage from behind the trunk of a Corolla of Sean Payton walking out with Cardinals president and owner Michael Bidwell and us getting excited about it. But my God, what an utter disaster he is. What an arrogant jerk he is. What a guy who does not take any accountability for his team being absolute just dog shit. I'm so happy that the Arizona Cardinals pivoted. They didn't buy into it. They didn't buy into the hype, and they decided to go a different direction with Jonathan Gannon. Because if we were to jump in the DeLorean, gun it to 88, and somehow persuade Sean Payton or make him realize that the Denver Broncos don't have it all together organizationally, like was reported, and he did become the Cardinals' next head coach, it would be a worse situation here, because it'd be probably similar where they're in that weird place where they're trying to rebuild, but they're also trying to compete at the same time, and it just doesn't work. The NFL, it doesn't work like that. You have to be all in on one side of it. You can't rebuild and compete at the same time. So
I'll push back a little bit. I think given the benefit of hindsight, and it's a long process, you would assume Sean Payton's going to be there. Maybe not. I think the Cardinals are better set up for success than the Broncos, given that they play in the NFC and Mahomes is not in their division. And whereas they gave up premium assets on top of already giving up assets for Russell Wilson, the financial aspect of everything. Like if the Denver Broncos are at the bottom of the barrel, like the Cardinals are trending up. But most of that is due to the fact who they hired a general manager and head coach. And you probably don't get Monty Ossenford if you hire Sean Payton. Sean Payton probably picks a puppet GM. So, I mean,
Monty was already in place, right? I mean,
I don't think you think Monty was hired that day. Okay, Monty was already. Okay.
So, and remember, I had asked Monty Ossenford if he'd passed.
I do remember that.
His paths crossed with Sean Payton,
right?
But look, would he have pressed for them to keep Zach Allen? Would he have pressed for them to get Byron Murphy? Would they have brought in like Jameis Winston? Like they wouldn't have cleared the way for consistent success in the future. They would have been Sean Payton, as we've seen, like he wanted to bring in some of his guys and he wanted to spend money, and the Broncos did. It just hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked at all. Would they have kept Vance Joseph?
No, that would have been a disaster. They would have hired Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio supposedly was supposed to go with Sean wherever he went, but then he picked the team.
Yeah,
it's hired Vic Fangio 18 months before. But
I air fried my crow. I wanted to get I got it plated. It wasn't that bad. But
there's nobody more humble than me, and we have a cleansing. The Sean Payton cleanse I thought was appropriate at the top of the show because their season's over. They're 1-5. Our friends at DNVR, God love them. Zach Stevens does a fantastic job. They've moved on to Caleb Williams, so God bless them on that journey. We have our own journey here on this podcast, and it's SOS Kyler Murray and Budda Baker. We're going to talk about that. First, the Cardinals have a game to be played this weekend. They're plus 250, as you mentioned to me off air with our friends at BetMGM. But before that, Bo, they practiced today at the Tempe facility, and I think good vibes offensively outside of James Conner. Not so great vibes defensively. What more can you tell us?
Well, Jalen Thompson, he hasn't practiced all week. He's been around the team. It looks like he's gearing up, hopefully for just a short stint off the playing field, but he's officially ruled out. They won't have another top-tier safety, so both of your top safeties are out. Budda Baker needs to miss at least one more game. We asked Jonathan Gannon, is he prepared for Budda to come back Monday? He says we'll see. I mean, Jonathan Gannon today It was a run of at the beginning of his press conference, his media availability today. We started, we were just firing off, and he was just firing back with Garrett Williams. He's like trending in the right direction. Dennis Daly trending in the right direction. Keontae Ingram trending in the right direction.
What does that mean, Jonathan?
What does that mean? It means the guys are getting healthier, but that's all I'm going to tell you, right? And Keontae Ingram did not have an injury designation for the game on Sunday, so that means he's good to go. Keontae Ingram, who's been out with a neck issue, he's been limited in practice, but he said he was a participant in a pretty physical practice on Thursday, practiced again on Friday. Keontae Ingram is there, and he's RB1 on the depth chart. We'll get more into it, but I think that he's going to get the first crack at this running back committee that they're going to move forward with in the absence of James Conner. But, back to the defense, Jonathan Ledbetter is going to be welcomed with open arms. They're going to get some beef in the middle of that defense that's been missing for the last couple of weeks as he's been trying to figure out how he's going to play with this finger issue. Because you're saying, it's just a finger, but when you're using your hands as much as defensive linemen and you're putting them on an offensive lineman right out of the gates each and every play, it's tough not to play. It's tough to play with that. So they get a little healthier up front. The back end it's a mess, Johnny.
Yeah, it's rough. Times are tough. Now, Garrett Williams, do you think he makes his debut this weekend? He's had 2 full weeks of practice.
Yeah.
Don't make that face. Don't make sad boy face.
No, I just don't think I don't think it's going to happen. No.
Wow.
I think that it's going to be Antonio Hamilton in the slot, taken up where Jalen Thompson was, and then you're going to have Keitrell Clark return to his snap load that we saw him play before last week, and then Marco Wilson, who you look at the stats, you look at the next level analytics, he's one of the worst performing cornerbacks in the league.
Yeah, pretty bad for old Marco. And that, the 3 weeks, and then they'll activate him, right? Like they'll activate him nenext week ahead of the Seattle game because they'd have to. It's kind of the same approach I think they're going to take with somebody else that's got to come off of PUP here pretty soon. But, at the end of the day, this defensive secondary, like the expectations, I would say, could not be lower through, no fault of the coaching staff. Like these are the chips they've been dealt. These are the cards they've been dealt. They've got to play what they've got. And like, they didn't sign a bunch of robust free agents. They didn't take a top corner in the draft outside of Garrett Williams, who was everybody knew it was a roll the dice win and how he would play, if he would be effective this year. We still don't have the answer to that. Like we talked about Devin Witherspoon, and we talked about some of these other corners. Talked about the kid out of New England that unfortunately is going to miss the rest of the year. The kid out of Oregon. Like the Cardinals didn't go that route. So it's like, okay, get the duct tape out and make it work until 2024. And we're seeing now, okay, people have viable passing attacks. You're playing some of the best quarterbacks that you've got on your schedule.
Yeah,
it could be rough. Like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, without T. Higgins, that was a problem matchup before when the schedule was released before they played this year. So for anybody who's going to say like, how are we going to stop these guys? I think we're asking the wrong question. It should be, how do we light up Matthew Stafford's immobile ass on Sunday? That's the question we should be asking. Like Jonathan, I don't expect Jonathan Gannon to get all up in people technique-wise at cornerback. Like you try to make do. You hope Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, we're going to talk about that, are back next week. But this week, it's all about the edge rushers that are coming after Matthew Stafford with I would say, middling offensive line. Can you light him up and make him uncomfortable? Can you manipulate the line of scrimmage on early rundowns with Ledbetter and Dante Stills, who's playing well? And then when it's time to get after people, make it uncomfortable for Stafford, because, even if Cooper Kupp's right open and Puka is wide open, if Stafford's uncomfortable and he's erratic, he's inaccurate. Like even when the Cardinals would beat the Rams a couple times under Cliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph, they didn't have great lockdown corners, with all due respect to Byron Murphy. It was Marco Wilson was a part of that group, but it was Chandler Jones. It was J.J. Watt getting after Matthew Stafford. So I think at the end of the day, like I'm so numb to what's happening in the secondary. I just expect people to be open anyway. Can you make Matthew Stafford's been the theme of the entire week uncomfortable to the point where he makes errant throws? The Cardinals got after Dak Prescott a couple of weeks ago. And he threw an egregious pick to Kazir White in the red zone. They need to do that again, because I think Stafford's a little bit above Dak Prescott. I think we'd all agree Joe Burrow is better. Brock Purdy's playing at an unbelievable level right now. You can get after Stafford and make him make errant throws this Sunday, even with the Cardinals, compromised defensive personnel.
I mean, if they subdue the run game, like they've been doing a pretty damn good job about outside of the 49ers game, with Christian McCaffrey, but
which is an outlier.
Outside of that, they've done a really decent job against the run game. If they can, do a decent job, we're not asking for them to just shut it down, Kyron Williams. But if they do that and they make Matthew Stafford uncomfortable, that's a recipe for success. It's simpler, it's easier said than done, but they are set to aid this ailing secondary. If they can get it going on the front seven and they can take advantage of some, which should be mismatches, even with, some ham sandwich names on their own defensive line in their own right, you've got an interior offensive line. It's one of the worst in the league. I mean, as much as you might like Steve Avila as a prospect, he's not doing that great. He's actually leading the Rams as far as highest amount of pressures surrendered. So, and their center play has been poor, and their tackle play hasn't been that great either. I mean, this is something that you should be able to expose enough. Like, I'm not saying each and every series. Like, I think Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka are going to eat. They're going to get enough. There's enough on that bone that they're going to be able to eat. But can your defense get off the field enough or force enough turnovers or punts that you can take advantage of it? Because I think if you do, this is going to be a tight contest. If you let them, go and be the all-world wide receivers that everybody says they are, and Matthew Stafford looks like, he did during that Super Bowl run, then it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, and it's up to them. Like, I think it's within reason. Like, Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon can scheme up a quality game plan to slow down McVay. Like, I have more confidence in them, tongue in cheek, than I.
They might not even have McVay on Sunday, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's share some more light on what's happening there.
I guess they're expecting their first child.
Yeah,
and that if his wife goes into labor, he is a family first guy. So we were kind of joking yesterday on the audio only podcast. We had used the verbiage of we need to induce Kyler Murray coming back, right? He was like waiting for to go into labor, and you had said we need to induce Kyler Murray back onto the practice field. We need to induce Sean McVay's baby mama into going into labor so he misses Sunday.
Let Raheem coach this team. We saw how that worked out when he was a head coach in Tampa Bay. But again, I think everybody cautiously optimistic for a bounce back showing, more viable. I mean, the Cardinal-Bengal game got out of hand, mid to late third quarter. I mean, that game was tough to watch in the fourth quarter, especially with how Dobbs was playing the defense.
But it was late in the third quarter. They had a chance to take the lead. They had a chance to cut that thing into a 1-point game.
Tavon Wallace had the interception.
Right.
And then they went down and could have converted on 4th and short and opted for what we think was not a quality play call. Is my screen frozen?
You are frozen. Look at that. It's not exactly the
look for me. That's not a good look for me. All right, I'm coming right back.
Johnny's gonna dip out. I do like that picture though. That's not exactly the most flattering screen grab of the Wing King there, but no, I mean it would be, if I think that they could, Nick Rallis needs to be able to dial up more stops, no doubt about it. Like there needs to be a few more punts than we've seen from this defense force the last couple of weeks. It's been brutal. I mean, to go from San Francisco, if it wasn't the end of a half or the end of the game, I mean, they had one stop against them. They were 5 of 6 in touchdown scoring drives. There he is. Way better look than old Duck Lips McGee as far as
that's how I looked at my high school yearbook photo. No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're going to get a bounce back game from this team, but do they have the personnel to be able to overcome all these injuries? I think it would be a modern miracle coaching job. When
you look at this schedule, I mean, probably outside of San Francisco, and I mean, we didn't know it going into the season because we didn't know what Puka Nacua was capable of. Knew nothing about the guy, right? Comes out, lights the world on fire, leading the league as far as receptions, leading the NFL in receptions. And then Cooper Kupp comes back. He's surgical as far as his route running ability, Triple Crown winner a couple of years ago. When you look at this and you can't find a worse moment to be down this tremendous in the secondary than this week. Am I right?
But it's almost like you say that, and it's almost too good to be true. Like, I remember games of the past for this Cardinal team where the opposing secondary was completely obliterated, and the Cardinals had some quality pass catchers, and they couldn't take advantage because the front seven of that opposing defense did their job. Like, I remember Philadelphia came to town, and that was the case. I remember situations against the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I like defensive back play fine. The game is won outside of quarterback up front. And if you get after people, like the secondary, kind of be damned. So the reason, like a lot of these teams in the NFL today, they can do and get by and maybe win championships with B and C level defensive back play. Like if your line is like the Cardinal line of scrimmage has not been good either. Like we put a lot of stock into what's going on with their cornerback play, which has been egregious, right? It's been terrible. But like, name a consistent ass kicker up front in their front seven, on their front four of their defensive line.
I think one's coming back. I mean, I think Ledbetter is coming back. I mean, he's still.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think he's a nice complimentary player. They do not
the team
have
in pressure. Like, I think.
Come on, Ledbetter. We're gonna make Ledbetter that guy on the defensive line. I think he's a nice rotational, maybe starter. He like,
and that's the best you're going to get from this
well,
group.
that's what I'm saying. So like, we're going to put, I get, we watch the games on Sunday and people are running wide open, and look at what these quarterbacks, they have like 7 to 10 seconds in the pocket. Joe Burrow was running around like he was Lamar Jackson last week. Like the closing ability of this defensive line is just not good enough. Like, we talked about it on our audio only podcast. Like, Cameron, where the fuck is Cameron Thomas? He's a shell of himself from last year. That guy was an upward trajectory. He was on a list coming into this offseason of a guy who could have 10 sacks this year. He looks like a vegetable. He can't get after people. I don't know if he's out of position or it's not working under Jonathan Gannon. That would be really unfortunate. But like, they're outside of the occasional Dennis Gardeck, Zaven Collins rush, and then Victor Newman-Cagey the first couple of weeks, like, you do not feel like this team is close to getting sacks outside of like 2 or 3 instances in a game.
Right.
And when they miss badly, which leads to huge broken plays. They're not making anybody uncomfortable.
I love this from Cardiac Cards. Ledbetter's our Aaron Donald. Let us have this, Johnny. He's our war daddy, baby.
Now I'm even more sad than when my face was frozen here a second ago. That I need a facelift from that comment, because this defensive line needs a facelift. That's sad.
Joking. There was a laughing emoji at the end of that. He was joking. But yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely Arizona animal. Ledbetter is the best that the Cardinals have, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, that's what you're going to get from a rebuilding team. But if you can't, like, your whole point is like the way to elevate a pedestrian to below average secondary is pressure up front. It's really the only way. It's the recipe. And getting Ledbetter back helps. Dante Stills' play developing over the last couple of seasons. Got to get something from Lecky. Got to get something from Kevin Strong. That's the hand you've been dealt.
When you mentioned,
but then on the edges, and I don't think this is an edges game. Like I mean, maybe Dennis Gardeck can go into his bag of tricks and get dial up another sack. But I haven't seen, like, we talked about it, I think, on our audio only podcast last night, where it was like, there's guys that are, it's okay, right? They're dialing up a little pressure here and there. They've got some sack numbers, and at the end of the year, they can be anywhere from 5 to 8 sacks. But where are you getting consistent pressure? Where is Matthew Stafford have to say, hey, this is, I better not stick back here too long, or this guy is going to put me on the turf. You don't have that guy right now. Nobody's emerged for the Cardinals right now to play that role.
Well, and that's how you get after Stafford, is he's immobile anyway. And like, the play is over if you get interior pressure. Like, he could extend it slightly like Burrow did last week if you're coming off the edge. The Cardinals have no disrupting 3 technique at all. And Ledbetter is your closest thing. You just mentioned Lecky Fotu. When you mentioned Lecky Fotu, I just make this kind of face, because I'm just like, what? He's a placeholder for somebody else right now. It's why we did our draft podcast. Check it out. It's on our YouTube page, and we talk about the need for a defensive tackle, and one that everybody should keeping their eye on out of the University of Illinois. But I digress. Defensively, they got their work cut out for them. I would say it's a huge win, Bo Brock, this week, if the Cardinals can hold the Rams under 30 points. I think that they have a chance to win if that happens, because they've allowed 30 plus points each of these last 2 games. Cincinnati had 49 points on the season coming into last week and scored 30 plus points. Probably could have scored more. So if you can go on the road and get your bearings about you and give up 24, 26, you got a shot. I know people talked about it in the chat. Rams, their secondary is susceptible. So let's change to the offensive side of the football, Brock. Hollywood Brown, questionable, but we expect the Cardinals wide receiver 1 to play this weekend, do we not?
Yeah, he was. He missed a day of practice. He's getting healthier each and every day, but dealt with a little bit of an illness, and he should be good to go. I don't see him. He's full. I mean, he was back on the practice field last 2 days. Yeah. I don't know why he would do that if he doesn't anticipate playing. He's officially questionable. I don't think there's any question, that he'll be out there. And then you look at the running back position, which I touched on a little bit, but Keontae Ingram is full go. Maybe we're a little extra cautious the last couple of weeks with him with the neck issue, but he looks like he's full go. Amari Dermacado is somebody that had some success in place of James Conner when he went out in the first half last week. And then you look to get Michael Wilson back up to speed. And when you look at these wide receivers, and you got to have something, I think, from Rondale Moore this week. Like, you have to get something from Rondale Moore. And I see people, clamoring for Greg Dortch in the chat, and hopefully he'll see more snaps on offense. But, primarily, like, Hollywood Brown kind of picks up where he left off in the first half last week before the pick 6. Michael Wilson picks up where he finished with the San Francisco game, and get Rondale Moore going any way you can, whether it's in the run game or in the pass game. If you can do that and expose the secondary for what it is, and what somebody said, 31st ranked secondary in the NFL, then you got a shot. You're going to have to score points.
This is a secondary and a defense in general, Bo, that has gotten worse as games have progressed. Like, they're kind of Cardinal-esque in that way. They gave up a huge second half, almost blew the game in overtime to Indianapolis and Anthony Richardson. Like, they have not looked good in the second half of games. Like, you look up on red zone, it's like, oh, the Rams are winning there. It's a 1-possession game in the first quarter. And then in the second half, the wheels fall off. And I think they suffer from a lot of the same problems the Cardinals have. It's just lack of depth and quality players, guys who have emerged, right? I mean, have been laughing at their defensive personnel into this offseason. Like, it's Aaron Donald and just a bunch of guys. So this is a Drew Petzing game where it's like, hey, Drew, we need to pick ourselves up off the canvas. I had 3 turnovers last week. We're not going to win like that, given the state of this team. Dial some stuff up. Like you mentioned, Rondale Moore. I'd be going back to that well multiple times this week. See if the little man can't break one. He's a weapon in the open field. Now, can you scheme him up against this Rams defense? I think you can. Not at the line of scrimmage, though. I don't want Rondale Moore anywhere near Aaron Donald. But the biggest thing for me, like, Michael Wilson has to be targeted. He's got to be a factor. Yeah. Rhythm passes. We talk about rhythm carries for running backs. Michael Wilson needs 5 targets in the first half for me to feel satisfied. We're going to be sitting at BetMGM this weekend. I'm going to be watching the game with all of you with a big plate of nachos, a big plate of wings. And if number 13 number 14's not eating, I'm going to be eating at BetMGM. If he's not eating against this Rams secondary, I'm going to be pissed off. And I'm going to start irresponsibly gambling at BetMGM, because at the end of the day, perfect passer rating for Joshua Dobbs when he's targeting the rookie. So I'm hopeful that they look at that last week and they said, this didn't work against Cincinnati. We got away with what we do best. And you mentioned it. Hollywood Brown, Michael Wilson, you can cook this Rams secondary with those. You can throw punches, you can throw jabs, and you can stay in this game, where you will not stay in this game 3 and out, getting cute, sulking and pouting because you don't have James Conner. Like, I see a lot of people on the Twitter streets this week, like, just do this at running back. No, you don't have James Conner. He's a top 10 rusher. You're not going to be able to rectify that. So supplement it here and there. Go to your best players. Win or lose with your best players. I don't want to say, well, James Conner got, 24 touches. Now we have to do that against DeMercado and Keontae Ingram. No, it means you need to throw the football more to Hollywood Brown and Michael Wilson, because they're your 2 best players now. You go down the pecking order offensively.
Well, you're going to see Joshua Dobbs' counterpart do that. Like, he knows he'll go to his well. Yeah, to a fault, right? I mean, he's got 5 interceptions on the season. He's gonna try to beat you with his best playmakers, and that's Kupp and that's Puka. And Joshua Dobbs needs to take a page out of that book. Like, your 2 biggest playmakers on offense now are your wide receivers. It's your X and your Z and Michael Wilson, and hopefully, like I said, you got to sprinkle in some Rondale Moore, but really expose these cornerbacks who really aren't that great. I mean, I was looking at the numbers today. You got Witherspoon. You've got a couple younger guys, Kobe Durant, who's struggling. We'll talk about him later. They're just a young, inexperienced group. guys that really have no business starting on any NFL secondary, right? And Joshua Dobbs, I mean, I liked what I saw from him against the Bengals before the catastrophic mistake was made, where Zach Pascal steps in front of one of his passes and it turns into a pick six, where you can't make that mistake. But before that, he was forcing the issue with Hollywood Brown. He was making big plays with Hollywood Brown early and often in that first half. I think he's like 7 for 14, wasn't as accurate, but they were getting chunk yards by getting number 2 involved. And then if you can get 14 involved in Michael Wilson, I mean, that's just going to be, if you force feed them against this Rams, I think if there's, when I talked about a matchup nightmare for the Cardinals defense against this passing attack from the Rams, you can equal that almost with what you've got.
Yeah. There's no reason why you can't. That's why we've been saying all week, like, I think these teams are closer than people think. Obviously, LA's got the coaching advantage. They've got the quarterback advantage. They've got Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, but
Cardinals got the coaching advantage for now, but we'll see. Speak into existence. We're going to introduce a little labor here.
Yeah. I think
gross?
I'm up.
Anybody grossed out by that?
Yeah, that Bo's going hard in the paint with making sure Sean McVay does not make it to the game on Sunday. Let's pivot hard to the super chat. Greg, $2. Need to link Zaven with OGs. Always looks blazed. I think that's the opposite of what we need from Zaven Collins. Like, we've talked about it. Like,
first off, he got his eye nearly poked out of his head a couple of weeks ago. Was that the Dallas game? He said that his eye. When you say that your eye was just kind of doing its own thing, it's never good. That's what it was doing, and it's still really red. But yeah, we do. A big Zaven game, Greg, would be huge for this pass rush.
I mean, you're getting nothing from BJ Ojulari, which stinks. Like, I thought last week they'd be able to get back into a groove, increase his snaps, but like, somebody step up as a pass rusher and have a game where you make a quarterback uncomfortable. Like, I do not want to do a post-game show on Sunday and basically say, like, yeah, this defense is turning into the pumpkin we all thought it would be. Because we lived in a reality for 4+ weeks where it was like, damn, this unit's overachieving. Look how great they look. It's the coaching. It's the coordinators, right? It's the young players. And then it's like, I'm going to call the Bengals game an outlier. And I hope I'm right. Because, again, I think they're capable. Will they be even more capable when Budda Baker comes back? We're going to talk about Budda and Kyler and next week in a second. But first, I want to remind everybody right now, you can dabble on this game. As I mentioned, plus 250. BetMGM right now. Cardinals money line. Again, if you're a little bit queasy with the idea of betting the Cardinal money line this week, maybe this will entice you. Bet $10 on this game or any game. Get $200 back instantly when you sign up with us at PHNX through BetMGM. Place your first offer using that bonus code PHNX of just 10 bones. Regardless of the outcome of your wager, you're going to get $200 instantly in additional winnings. So again, your bet wins and it's plus 250. You're going to make some money and then some with the additional $200. So it's not and or, you get both. But if it loses, if the Cardinals suffer a defeat, or if you bet on a different game, you parlay it, doesn't work out, you get $200 instantly for free from our friends at BetMGM. You just got to use that bonus code. It's a robust slate of games this weekend. Ton of quality stuff. If you're looking to play it safe, though, I mean, like, the Buffalo Bills play what has equated to the New York Giants team. It's basically a MAC team right now, the New York Giants team. So if you're thinking you want to play it safe, bet 10, get $200 there, make like 2 cents, whatever you want to do it with BetMGM. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to my guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
The best little sidekick for any Arizona Cardinals football game is that Red Bird Lager from Four Peaks. Actually, any of their delicious brewed beer goes best with game day Four Peaks. Got to check them out in Tempe. Their 8th Street location has a full menu that you're not going to want to miss out on. You got to check it out for yourself if you haven't. Of course, they've got the appetizers, they've got the entrees, they've got the desserts, all delicious and all paired with their incredible beer that they brew right there. You know, pumpkin pour season, can't beat that. You got their flagship Kilt Lifter, unreal. #1 wheat beer in the state of Arizona, talking about their Joy Bus. Wow, it's incredible. Love every beer from Four Peaks. You an IPA guy or gal, check out their full line of IPAs. My favorite IPA there, Raj. The Raj, you can get the Raj normal, or you can get the Raj, the bourbon aged barrel Raj, which is so smooth. It pairs perfect with a nice little dessert at the end of your meal. Check everything out. They got everything going on. They got all the fall beers, the full line of fall beers over at Four Peaks. Got to be 21 years or older, or 21 years or older to enjoy the beer as well. You got to drink it responsibly. I was thinking maybe we send some spicy food to Sean McVay's wife. Really get things going as far as he needs to be a daddy.
I can't believe we're still on this. I mean, I guess good luck to him. Here's what I want. It's almost, would it be better though if she hasn't gone into labor yet and he's got his mind on other things? Like, I don't know how I'd be able to focus if she's like on the edge of her seat about to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And subsequently he's like, no, just go coach the game. And maybe he's like making the wrong call on 3rd down potentially because he's thinking about other things.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping that we just get a checked out Sean McVay this week.
I'd rather have Raheem. I want Raheem Morris.
Yeah, he's really bad at his job. He's definitely somebody I think the Cardinals could take advantage of. So the game almost feels like, and I'm excited about this game this weekend because I think Cardinals are going to bounce back. It almost feels like a sub bullet though to next week, Bo Brock. As soon as Sunday night, I think we could get an announcement as it relates to both Kyler Murray and Budda Baker. Now, you mentioned on our audio-only podcast, again, check it out. It was a loaded one last night, that Budda Baker, you would be, quote, shocked if Budda Baker wasn't activated off of injured reserve. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I just think that Budda Baker is somebody that's, like we've heard with Kyler Murray, is chomping at the bit to get back. And I'm sure he wasn't too excited to be placed on an injured list like he was the IR. With a hamstring issue, but he's been doing some things here and there. He's excited about, his alma mater in Washington taking on Oregon tomorrow. Told us that he actually did kind of like the inspirational hype speech before that game for his Huskies who are taking on the Ducks tomorrow. And he also told Jose Romero, who's an Oregon alum, that the Huskies are going to win by 30. So I don't know if you want to check out BetMGM there, but like I said, Budda is alum, but he just seems like he's in good spirits, and it seems like he's close. And it kind of fits within the timeline of most hamstring injuries, that it just could line up that he's going to be designated return come Monday, and that would be a big boost to the back of this defense. And Jalen Thompson hasn't been MIA. He's been around the team. He hasn't been practicing, but he's been out there on the practice field just kind of mulling around his teammates and stuff. So it's not like they're hiding him or trying to keep him out of sight to rehab. So it feels like those two leaders on the back end of the defense, that they're going to be back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. I think both of the safeties are potentially come back next week. What a boost would that be for your secondary? It feels like all hands on deck this week. Try to get through this game, step up pass rush, and then next week Garrett Williams, Jalen Thompson, and Budda Baker could all join you in Seattle to take on Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. I think that's best case scenario. And to your point, like Budda Baker, they were cautious with this injury, right? That put him on injury reserve. Nobody assumed it would be season ending. Gannon was pretty adamant Budda's going to play again this year. I think he's activated next week, but I mean that's very much the preamble to the main story, which is Kyler Murray, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. Kyler Murray, another week on PUP when technically he didn't have to be, right? He's been eligible to return for 2 weeks. They've passed on it. Now we're trending toward, okay, if you do not activate him next week, you're looking at, in my opinion, with how cautious they're being with Garrett Williams in practice, 3 weeks, if they don't activate him this week, you're looking at middle of November, in my opinion, to get Kyler Murray back. If you're gonna take this long to activate him, I'll go on record. I think Kyler Murray is activated next week. Again, I said this on the show earlier this week. I had a source text me that they would be shocked if he's not activated to begin practicing next week. Now, we have been told, Bo Brock, friends of this program, close to the team, the Cardinals want to get him 2 weeks of full practice to be able to start him that next Sunday. I'm not, these sources have been right more often than not in the past. What I would say though is, again, with Garrett Williams, if he's not activated this weekend, I get it. He's a baby. He's a rookie.
Right.
It's like, will they probably just use that additional week for Kyler Murray? Maybe. So hypothetically, if Kyler Murray's activated with Budda Baker next week, I think that the timeline for him to play will either be at home against Baltimore or at Cleveland the following week behind that.
Yeah. And Jonathan Gannon was asked by Howard Balzer, are they expecting to kind of wear out the 21-day window when it's open? And is that something that is making them pause as far as when they decide to designate him to return? Because you've got those 3 weeks. And if he's not ready by 3 weeks, either have to activate him or he's gone for the entire season. So, Gannon responded with, that plays a minor role in this. It's not the main thing. I mean, the main thing is Kyler Murray telling him, hey, I'm ready to start this process. I'm ready to go from the medical bucket, the rehab bucket, to let's get me on the practice field. Let's start to ramp me up for playing football again and taking snaps and starting to learn this offense outside of the classroom and on the practice field. So, Jonathan Gannon expressed that, he'd said that, Kyler Murray's going to tell him ultimately. And then, once and they've got a pretty good idea of when they will designate him to return, but, won't pretty much tell us anything as far as when that could be. But if you're just kind of reading the tea leaves and kind of looking, from what we've seen from Kyler Murray via social media, what we've heard from Jonathan Gannon, what he said in press conferences, what he's said in radio interviews, we expect to see enough of Kyler Murray, a good amount of Kyler Murray this season. Then we're right around that ballpark. We're approaching it to where, we don't want to make him look like he's not telling the truth there. And I don't think that there's some gamesmanship to Jonathan Gannon, but just outright lying to people, it's not something that I've witnessed so far.
Yeah, good amount to me is half the year, and anything less than that, I mean, that's not good. That's a small amount. The sample size is small. Michael in the chat saying, how many days did Dobbs have? Dobbs had, I think, about a week and a half to get ready. We talked about
5 practices. I think he had 5 or 6 practices.
But the difference between that and Kyler's situation, we've talked about it. Kyler hasn't practiced, period. Dobbs went through a whole training camp and preseason with the Browns, had familiarity with this offense. Like, Kyler Murray has not played in a practice since last November. And so you're going to have a learning curve as it relates to taking snaps under center, going through the cadence with it. He's never played with Michael Wilson before. He's never run a structured team.
Neither had Dobbs. I mean, Dobbs didn't know any. I mean, he didn't know who Wilson really was.
The Commanders, the passing game was bad. Wasn't good. But they picked it up, and I'll give them credit. But this is, in my opinion, Bo, this is not the same as Dobbs' timeline versus Kyler Murray's timeline. Like, I think Kyler Murray's in shape to come back and play, but I mean, working out on the side for 6 months and ramping up and thinking about one thing, getting my knee ready, and then flip on a script and like, okay, now I have to go play football and lead 10 other guys in a huddle. That's completely different. Whereas, like, Dobbs was just doing that for the Cleveland Browns, albeit with like their third stringers during preseason games. He was in a huddle. He was going through live reps.
Right.
Kyler Murray will not have the benefit outside of practice of a live rep before he plays an NFL game. Like, you're going to throw him into the fire.
There's a big difference between being in shape, which Kyler Murray is. Everybody in that locker room is in shape, and football shape. I mean, Najee Sanders has stayed in shape. He even got the benefit of training camp before his hand injury, and he told us yesterday he was absolutely gassed. I mean, he was trying to catch his breath, just trying to get back in the football shape, and they weren't throwing much at him. I mean, I didn't see him in the closed portion of practice and how many reps he got. And, that pass rush rotation, it's deep. So you can't imagine he's out there for extended amount of time, but you're a quarterback, you're on the field for every single play. I mean, if they have a 12-play drive and march down the field, awesome. But, is Kyler Murray going to be in shape for that? Is he going to be able to do that and do all the things that makes Kyler, where he's running out of the pocket and he's putting a ton of yards on his legs just to make one play downfield? Like, we haven't seen that yet. So there is going to be that part of it as well. Just him kind of getting his football legs after, rehabbing his knee, getting to where it needs to get to this, hopefully this point coming soon.
Let's get to some of these super chats. You guys are crushing it here on a Friday. Hit that like button Jalen Blair, $5 super check. Kyler is on 9 months post-surgery last week. We were expecting him to heal like Wolverine, question mark. Let our guy get healthy. I mean, like, here's the thing. And everything is not all black and white. There's gray areas with returning. We talked about it last night, Bo. Like, Zach Ertz tore his ACL just before Kyler Murray, but far later than Garrett Williams did. And he's been active and playing since week 1. He was active during the latter half of the preseason. And so, again, like, I think there was hope that Kyler Murray could come back sooner because he's in his mid-20s. He's an elite athlete, top 10 in both football and baseball, respectfully being drafted. But again, what they're showing you right now is, I think the longer this goes, the more that they're saying, we've seen what we need to see. Kyler's going to be our guy, and we got to be immensely certain. I mean, you see Gannon and him at practice chumming it up. I'm sure K1's just in his ear saying, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And we know looks fantastic, but they have to be careful because, again, the wrong slip during a game and practice, God forbid you rehamper the injury. I mean, maybe you're not in a position even to take a quarterback after the fact that happens.
Yeah.
And then any kind of trade value of Kyler Murray goes out the window. So I understand that you waiting longer is better for everybody, most in particular Kyler Murray. So it doesn't bother me, but I get where the fan base is anxious because it's been teased for so long now at this point.
I think that everything that Kyler Murray can do to this point, like, they've liked, right? But there's a threshold for this organization's decision makers, from Monty to JG, that they can take that, but you got to show it on the grass. And they haven't seen that yet. I mean, they've seen it on tape. JG's prepared for him as a DC, and Monty, I'm sure, has done as thorough of his evaluation as anybody as far as, his quarterback goes, because he understands, what he's either tying himself to or what he would have to seriously consider potentially moving off of if that's the decision he wants to make. So, but I think they really like what they've seen, but they're continually going to keep their options open. But, a big part of this is when he gets back on the practice field, how he looks, and then how he goes from the practice field to the playing field. And, you just got to hope that it's going to be soon enough to where it isn't where you only get, 7-6 games. But, I still think that these, especially Gannon and Monty, that's going to be enough that they're going to be able to make a decision that's going to be best for this organization going forward.
You all should make a decision right now as it relates to Kyler Murray and his next home game, potentially for the Arizona Cardinals, buying tickets via the Game Time app. Baltimore, how about Houston potentially coming to town, or they go to Houston? Atlanta in November is a hot ticket right now. Game Time is going to save you money with the promo code PHNX, $20 off your first purchase. I mentioned it, Bo. Fam went out to the game last weekend, had a great time despite the loss, got pretty good seats for $60 total. 2 seats from $60, and then they got like a parking pass for $4 or $5 all through Game Time. It's cheaper than like going out to eat right now is going to an NFL game using the Game Time app. Again, it's the fastest growing ticket app in the country for a reason. Minimal fees, all that BS that come with every other third-party ticketing app. It's cut away with Game Time. It's just about one thing, and that's saving you money. And again, it rewards procrastinators. So there's a good chance the longer you wait to buy, assuming you're using that bonus code PHNX, the better deal you're going to get. Now, with this impending Kyler Murray return, Budda Baker back in action, hopefully next week, prices, I would think, start to go up with the Arizona Cardinals. So Game Time is where you want to be. Terms and conditions apply. Just download the app, create an account, use that bonus code PHNX, get $20 off your first purchase. Again, PHNX is the redeem code. Check it out in the description. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Kyler's return, NLCS. You've got Coyotes season just dropped the puck. And they're up 2-0. Is that what I saw?
Juggernaut.
Look out for the Yotes. My God. Check them out on Game Time. Use that promo code PHNX. Also, why not check out all these sports if you're not going to the event? Hang back, turn them on the tube, and then pop an OGs. That's a great Friday night plan, right? That's a great plan for any night. Check out their mixed bag where they've got the fruits, they've got the creams. You can decide whether you're a fruit guy or gal or a cream guy or gal. They've got the best of both worlds in the 100 milligram fruits and creams mixed bags. You can find out if you like red apple or watermelon or blackberries and cream or orange creamsicle, which Cardinals legendary wide receiver Frank Sanders calls the goat gummy as far as OGs goes. Check out their full product line, including like the sleep time gummy. Yeah, they've got something for everything. You got trouble going to sleep, staying asleep. They got the sleep time gummy, the aquaberry flavor. It's at ogsbrands.com. You can find out all about their products there and then buy them in your local dispensary. ogsbrands.com and on your socials at ogsbrands. Got to be 21 years or older.
It's prediction time ahead of this weekend's game. LA hosting the Arizona Cardinals. But before we get to that, got a couple key matchups on the horizon for our Redbirds. Bo Brock, let's start with Michael Wilson against the Rams secondary.
Yeah, as we saw, 31st ranked secondary, and Kobe Durant, big reason for that. Actually, you look at issues just all over the secondary, but you got to identify Durant, who would primarily be on Wilson's side of the field and in coverage against their Z receiver here. Michael Wilson, 15 catches for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both those came against the Niners, and he only had the 2 catches in the previous game. So most of those are through 4 weeks of play, and going up against the guy who's surrendered 15 catches, 200 yards allowed, and had 2 penalties in coverage. So Kobe Durant seems to be somebody that they can expose. I mean, I don't think that it's much better on the other side of the field for the Rams when you look at a fellow Witherspoon, who's been penalized, I believe, 5 times on the season. So you've got some options here with Hollywood Brown and Michael Wilson to go against this secondary. But I like this one, with Michael Wilson to have a bounce back. Big 6'2", almost 6'3" receiver going up against a 5'11". That's South Carolina product, South Carolina State product. Kobe Durant.
Kobe, no Jalen Ramsey man in the secondary anymore. Those days are long over for the LA Rams. So yeah, I love that matchup, and I think let's get Michael Wilson on quick screens. Let's get him on quick slants. Let's get him the ball and allow him to break tackles, because I think that, again, he's got that capability in his game, and they haven't unlocked it yet. Now, the Cardinals need to unlock some pressure. We talked about in our first segment. You talked about the returning Jonathan Ledbetter against one of my draft crushes during the offseason, TCU, now LA Rams guard Steve Avila. Ledbetter, who is poised to return from a 2-week absence, 8 pressures, 7 hurries, 1 sack. Steve Avila, who, again, could turn out into a nice pro. He's not there yet. Has surrendered 15 pressures allowed, 3 quarterback hits, and a sack. I think this is a combination. Ledbetter, let's get Stills. The rookie looked fantastic last week. Let's just start sending people at number 73.
Get after him.
It's hard to play offensive lineman in the NFL. That's why I think not enough good things you can say about guys like Paris Johnson Jr., who are making it, frankly, look easy week in and week out. But the Rams, if you're going to beat Stafford, you have to get in his face. I need bodies barreling on top of Matthew Stafford by the end of that game. Let the chips fall where they may. I also think Gannon does not like to blitz. I think this is a game where you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz. Because if the Cardinals aren't winning, Bo, a quarter of the way in with front four, with 4-man pressure, you guys start sending people at Stafford's ass. And you up the gut, make him uncomfortable because you're white. Like, get people in his face. This is, I rip on Isaiah Simmons. This is what they did once upon a time with Isaiah Simmons. Like, get tall men in front of Stafford to manipulate his vision looking downfield. And if he's able to hit Cooper Kupp 30 yards downfield, miraculous throw and catch, like, I'm gonna be okay being beat with that. What I'm not gonna be okay with is if Ledbetter and Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck are unable to generate any kind of pressure, and it's Stafford super comfortable, like Joe Burrow was last week, 5, 6, 7 seconds in the pocket, just dinking and dunking. That's why the completion percentage has been so high each of the last couple weeks. So I'm going to give the defensive line and Ledbetter against Steve Avila about a quarter. And if you don't have your shit together and it looks like last week and the week before that, then I'm sending the house, and you kind of let the chips fall where they may.
I mean, it's Avila. It's, combination of who they've been starting at center, whether it's, Brian Allen's been dealing with injuries, or Coleman Shelton, who's been there as well at the center spot. And then Joe Noteboom, who's been brutal as far as at the other guard spot. Like, they are so vulnerable in the interior of this offensive line that this no-name Cardinals defensive line unit. We know it because we've either been shouting obscenities about it, or we've been, waxing poetic about this rotation that Rollis has sometimes worked to a really good spot. It's got to be the latter there, going up against the interior of this offensive line. Absolutely, Arizona. Pressure up the middle is key for Stafford, and that's where you can get it. I mean, we talk about Avila, who's given up 15 pressures, and then you look at the rest of the guys. It's like you got Coleman Shelton, who was the center there in spot, and he could be back out there again. He's also given up 15 pressures. And then next on it is Noteboom, who's given up 13 pressures. Like, all the pressures coming up the middle against the Rams. Arizona Cardinals can't be the team that, just like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were struggling going into last week. It can't be a get-right game for the interior of the Rams offensive line. It's got to start with Ledbetter and the team to say, oh, that's what we were missing. Led's been out. Bedwetter hasn't been out there. He's back out there. Let's get it going.
How dare you, Mr. Bedwetter? Are the Cardinals going to wet the bed this weekend? It's prediction time. I'll get it started, Bo Brock. Here's who I like and maybe what I don't like ahead of this Sunday's matchup. The offensive star, we've talked about it, Michael Wilson. If Cardinals are going to be in this game, number 14 has to play a part in it offensively. Like, Hollywood Brown can't do it by himself. Michael Wilson, egregiously, only 2 targets last week. He came down with one miraculous catch. Like, get this dude the ball in space. Joshua Dobbs is not a good enough quarterback right now to not feed Michael Wilson the football. Like, with respect to everybody else, Zach Pascal and Zach Ertz, I don't want to see those targets, not early in this game. Rotate off of Hollywood and Michael Wilson, as we've talked about it for the entirety of the show. This Rams secondary is ass. If they're able to pressure well, to pass protect well, Cardinals offensive line is healthy and they're getting Dennis Daly back this week. You ought to be able to throw on this Rams secondary. Defensive star, he had an interception last week. Friend of the program, the Greg Dortch podcast, Kayvon Wallace. I think Kayvon Wallace right now is an NFL starting caliber safety, and the Cardinals need him to step up with no Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker. This is one of Jonathan Gannon's favorite people on the Arizona Cardinals. They claimed him. He's been a stalwart right now. He's played almost 100% of the snaps since he's got here. I think he needs to set the tone and help these young cornerbacks on the back end the best that he can. He knows Puka. He knows Cooper Kupp. Playing in Philadelphia, they saw the LA Rams plenty of times. Obviously, Puka's a rookie this year. But this should not be a deer in the headlights kind of game for Kayvon Wallace. As Brian Baldinger has said many times on this show, he just needed opportunities. Dobbs needed opportunities. Kayvon Wallace, 4th rounder out of Clemson, needed opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, like Keontae Ingram, it's now or never. You want to be a part of this backfield in 2024? Like, I think Mercado is going to get his touches. There's only one player on this team that's going to get the ball in short yardage. On the goal line, 3rd and 2, it's going to be Keontae Ingram. Respectfully for Mercado, Keontae Ingram has a very similar body type to James Conner. It's the reason they named him RB2 coming into this season. If you're a fantasy enthusiast, like, this is who's going to be touching the ball in the red zone. So I think he could help himself. He's been out for a couple weeks. He's poised to return, as you said in the first segment, trending up with his neck injury. Like, let's help your teammates. Break some tackles. Do your best James Conner impression. Final score prediction, unfortunately, like 30-17 is what I'm going to go with. I hope it doesn't happen. But this defense, to me, man, I got to see it. Can you hang and can they catch their breath for 4 quarters? If they can, I like the Cardinals' chances. The 17 points is more a reflection right now of the defense just not being able to get off the field.
Yeah. And look, the Rams have suffered, some 4th quarter downfalls as well, just because of their lack of depth as far as the talent deficiency against the rest of the league. And maybe in this game is where the Cardinals can kind of keep it tighter than we've seen at least the previous 2 weeks. But yeah. I like your predictions, and I think they're pretty solid. Fantasy enthusiasts, I mean, you're talking to the number 1 fantasy team in the PHNX league right now. Just beat up on Damon. I've already beat up on Johnny. So it's an exciting time. Of course, yes, I am a fantasy enthusiast. I'm probably the most enthusiastic.
Let's say your predictions. Good hell, this is painful. Just move on. Should we talk about Stafford's wife going into labor again?
Can we get her some pad thai, extra spicy? Send her some sriracha with that. Yeah, let's get to this. This is got to be a big Joshua Dobbs day, right? Joshua Dobbs had a decent first half before a catastrophic pick 6, backed up on their own goal line. He's got to take care of the ball. He knows that, and he's got a big opportunity against a bad Rams secondary. We've talked about it all afternoon. Joshua Dobbs, it's got to be his type of day. I'm talking 2 to 3 passing touchdowns. If that's there, the Arizona Cardinals are going to be in this contest going up against the Rams in a potential shootout. But if they don't want it to be a shootout, if they want to get some stops, it's got to come from their defensive front, that front seven, and the guy that's been playing at the highest level this season has been Dennis the Barbarian Gardeck, and his 4 sacks. Can he rack up some more sacks against this Rams offensive line? Now, of course, we talked about the pressure in the interior. They need to get that all game, and then they need to supplement it with the guys on the edge, and that has to be Dennis Gardeck. And then my X factor actually is your defensive player of the game, Kayvon Wallace, because the biggest difference maker has been this season has been whether or not the defense can get stops. So I think my X factor has to come from the defensive side of the football. Can they get enough stops? Can they get turnovers to put the Cardinals offense back out there on the field and not chasing points like they have the last 2 weeks? 34-24, I've got the Rams winning this one.
I mean,
just hoping for a tighter. I don't think this is a game that the Cardinals can't win. I mean, they beat Dallas for the love of God, right? But what we've seen, the trends are telling us, that this has been a team that has gone away in the fourth quarter, and the talent deficiency and discrepancy between them and the other NFL teams has been flexed. And the Arizona Cardinals, they got to do something to combat that. And, I think they're capable of doing it. But Nick Rollis and this defense, I'm putting the emphasis on them to keep them in this game, to get those stops and those turnovers that are necessary in order to get a dub.
Dylan Richards saying in the chat, 1-5, yuck. And again, like that, it's going to be so fascinating to watch this team with players on the horizon coming back, seeing if they can't weather the storm in these next couple weeks. Like, can they somehow scratch and claw and get a win against the Rams or the Seahawks or Baltimore at home, get some momentum? Because the soft spot of that schedule is coming up. I mentioned it, Houston, Atlanta, right? The Browns right now are an absolute shit show, shambles, starting XFL quarterbacks. They're wishing they had our boy Joshua Dobbs. Instead, they benched DTR. Like, there's a point in November where the schedule flips and it's a lot of meh. Can the Cardinals get to that point with more than one win? I think they can. Maybe it starts this week. We're excited to break it down because we're going to be with all of you this Sunday with our friends at BetMGM at the Great Lawn State Farm Stadium. Come out. It's the watch party of all watch parties. As Bo and I have mentioned time and time again, you rock a little merch from the PHNX merchandise locker, hat and or shirt. It can be something other than PHNX Cardinals. We'll forgive you, right? There's a lot of banger sports right now going on in the Valley, covered only
not just
by PHNX Sports at the elite level. We're going to hook you up with a brewski on the house. Come out, definitive watch party. Myself, Bo Brock, Britton Golden, former Arizona Cardinal wide receiver, pre-halftime, post-game show. And in the meantime, perfect primer to get ready for Sunday. And next Sunday, we've got a watch party. Go PHNX.com, become a diehard, read the many workings of the great PHNX Cardinal beat reporter Howard Balzer. 90% of his articles are free. That sweet 10%. You got to sign up to become a diehard. Every single year you're a diehard, you're going to get copped a hat and or shirt for free. You're also going to get 20% off all future events with PHNX Cardinals. But guess what? Watch along starting this Sunday. They are free. Become a diehard. Head out to BetMGM this weekend. Let's have a great time.
Yeah, and you can also, PHNX is going to save you a little bit of money on some great sunglasses. You can use the promo code PHNX. Go to ShadyRays.com. Check out their full product line. Figure out which sunglasses are for you, your friends, your family. They're premium polarized shades. It's incredible that are built to last. And if they don't last, they break, you lose them. Shady Rays is going to replace them with an insane protection plan. You break them, you lose them. They're going to pretty much replace them, no questions asked. They have your back long after your purchase. But check out which sunglasses you are going to purchase. ShadyRays.com. Use that promo code PHNX to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of premium polarized sunglasses. This is a price point well over 100, under $100. So you're not breaking the bank already, but then you're going to save even more money using that promo code PHNX. We've got great content going up on our YouTube page, Johnny, including an interview you did with the talented athletic writer, Kalen Kohler, who wrote the story about the troublesome, possibly toxic work culture at the Cardinals facility.
Yeah, I had a chance to sit with her yesterday and talk about her article. I encourage everybody to go read it, see for yourself at The Athletic, and senior NFL writer. She had put this article together over the course of the last few months since the suit that came out against the Cardinals from ex-Vice President Terry McDonough, then, of course, the NFLPA grades. This is less on the field, if you read the article, and more off the field with just team employees, like everyday regular employees that think, hey, I'm going to work for the Cardinals. It's my dream job. And unfortunately, in some cases, that dream turned into a nightmare reality, specifically for people of color and women in the office. So the Cardinals, to their credit, are they've acknowledged the article. They've responded. Michael Bidwell put out a statement basically saying, I'm not perfect. I'm working every day to get better. The Cardinals are trying to improve as a culture within their work environment, according to Kalen. So again, the article is fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's like, this team has a microscope on them for all the wrong reasons off the field. And I think that at the end of the day, the only way this is going to change is for articles like this to people to call them out on their shortcomings. You want the best people to want to come work for your franchise. That includes the GM, the players, the scouts, and then people like the HR department, accounting, finance. You're not going to get the best people if there's a perception, fair or not, of how you treat your employees. So always trying to be better. There was a reason they were 31st in the NFLPA grades. Like, that's not nothing. That's players telling you this is not good enough. This is people that worked within the facility saying this is not good enough. So I know a lot of people are like, stop hating on the team. We got to remember, these are people's lives that are being affected by this, and they just want to see positive change. And that's, something we want to try to highlight on this show, Bo.
Yeah, it's not, making the same mistakes over and over again, and trying to look at why this organization has had its shortcomings. And, it isn't us just hate. It's not a Florio take. It's just like, this is bad. It's always going to be bad. There's been the acknowledgement from the ownership, but look, when you hit the full reset button and you had the people in the business in this organization that have been in this organization for over 2 decades that were the main decision makers, there's going to be a lot of skeletons in those closets, and they're going to continue to come out. And the one thing I will say is you do have to differentiate between, the previous organization and decision makers, and still Michael Bidwell is a part of that. And he's not going away because this article didn't have any smoking gun that was going to lead or is going to lead to him selling this team. But there was an acknowledgement of poor performance from him as a leader. But also you have to keep in mind Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon weren't a part of that problem. And I think that they're actually a part of the solution going forward. So, you can look at Arizona Animals saying hit piece. I disagree. I don't think it's a hit piece. I think it's just, unearthing and exposing some alleged issues that they had, but that they're working on. And it's gonna take some time. And it's unfortunate that people, said it was, and I'm paraphrasing, it was a nightmare to go to work, and then they didn't have an HR department to talk to them, which is outrageous.
I want everybody to think right now, if you work in a professional work environment, there's probably a place for you to go if something were to happen, and somebody for you to talk to pertaining to this article and the information they outlined. And the Cardinals attested to this. They didn't have an HR rep until like 2019, 2020, which is just absolutely ridiculous for a $1 billion franchise in the National Football League. It's unbelievable.
Here's what I'll say. McDonough, though, come on, that's Arizona Animals saying, like, are we taking what Terry McDonough, a disgruntled former employee that, I think the new regime identified as somebody they didn't want to move forward with. And you'd seen kind of outlined from the Cardinals' behalf about Terry McDonough. I do think it's kind of a lot like Jose Canseco in his role in exposing Major League Baseball. For
the worst player, just made a good point. That's the meme come to life.
What's that?
The worst person just said something you agree with, basically.
Right.
McDonough can be wrong in a lot of how he goes about things, but what he's saying, as you mentioned, the whistleblower with Jose Canseco, like, it can be true too. There's probably a lot of truth to what he said, and it's enabled, fair or not, a lot of people to come out and speak on the culture with this team or the former culture. Like, I will say the article reflects a lot of what happened like 18, 24 months ago. So they're actively working on it, but that doesn't mean that they get to escape everything that went on. It's like,
we're
going
to who's also mentioned it was somebody who's unceremoniously left the organization. I think after the Keim DUI, he got his own DUI and left just months afterwards, and probably didn't leave on great terms. And I'm just like, I don't know that for sure, but the way that he's speaking up, and I'm sure he's got. It's not for him just trying to get these people, some sort of closure or some sort of resolution to this, but I look at the article as a whole, and Kalen did a good job in reaching out to people not like those guys, and got some insight that's alarming. But also with the new leadership in place, and I've seen this in the chat too, is like JG, Monty, like everything I've seen from these guys, they wouldn't put up with that shit.
Well, and the best thing that they can do, cliche, is for them to win, to showcase to Michael Bidwell that the less you are involved with the day-to-day football operations, fair or not, and letting the football people do the work, the more we're going to have success. Like you and I have argued for a long time. Like, we're not going to say it's fair or not, Michael Bidwell sell the team. This is Dan Snyder. It hasn't reached that level. But what I will say is I think Michael Bidwell would be best served hiring like a team president, somebody who's run another franchise or another football organization. And then that person reports to Michael Bidwell. And you want a bunch of qualified, mostly external people that have done this at a high level, that have produced results like Austin, Ford, and Gannon to come here and show you how it's done. And that doesn't have to just be on the football side of things, as this article depicts. Like they've hired some new external HR people. They hired a third-party service to come in and conduct interviews with their employees. Like, I think at the end of the day, I love this franchise, but it's been owned by the same family for the longevity, for the most part, of its lifetime. And they have never won a championship. They've never won a Super Bowl. They have the longest championship drought in professional sports. The minute the Chicago Cubs won a World Series, the Cardinals are next in line. And so I think you should, if it's not working, you should always be looking to tweak. And Michael Bidwell, fair or not, this offseason, in light of the easy solution could have been Vance Joseph, Quentin Harris, Adrian Wilson, said, no, we got to fix all of this. And he went out and got an external GM, and he went out and got a head coach that's a true leader of men, not just an offensive guy like Sean Payton. So they are actively trying, and it can be remedied, Bo Brock.
Yeah. And look, it's a process, right? And it's a working process. I mean, and especially at the top. I mean, did he make the right decision with pivoting to external candidates like Monty Osfort, and then Monty Osfort picking Jonathan Gannon? Like, yes, but still a work in progress as far as that goes. If he's going to continue as the president, Michael Bidwell, of this organization, then, if he's willing to say, hey, I made some mistakes in the past and I'm working on it, paraphrasing, and then that's really all you can do at this point. But there's still going to be ugly things that are going to be said about this franchise. That's inevitable, just with how things operated for far too long.
We've talked about it. You can overcome some shaky ownership habits when you get the right people involved and can instill a new way of looking at a franchise. The Cardinals are doing renovations to their Tempe facility. They've made renovations to their stadium, of how they treat their players and their families. So again, I know we don't like when this stuff comes out about our favorite team. In a weird, indirect way, it helps the people that are quote unquote suffering the most. And so that's something important to remember, because this stuff, I mean, with the franchises are quote unquote buttoned up and winning, like you don't hear about this stuff happening in Kansas City. Like you don't hear about this stuff happening ever in Green Bay. Like this is something that the Cardinals, if they want to join the big boy echelon, now San Francisco, right? Like you got to be able to be buttoned up off the field too.
Yep. Well said. That interview is going to be, right now it's on our audio only podcast, which is available wherever you find them. But also we got the interview dropping tomorrow. Same thing with our key matchup video. And if you haven't checked out our draft conversation that we had our first PHNX Cardinals NFL draft episode. It's live on YouTube, and it will be live in podcast form tomorrow. Big game on Sunday, Johnny. Cardinals, Rams, another NFC West showdown. Hopefully the Cardinals can avoid the first 3-game losing streak of the Jonathan Gannon era on Sunday. I'm here for it. Let's make it happen. Do we have our gut meter? Where's our gut meter? We gonna fucking
dare look at it this week?
Oh,
my gut needs some Tums.
We don't have any juice. We need to get that. I hope the only gut that's like at nearly bursting the seams as far as is the soon to be in labor Sean McVay baby mama. Like I hope She's
Christ. I need to get off the show today with my co-host. He's just, are you going to be in shambles? We're going to be at BetMGM Sunday, and McVay's going to be there. His wife's going to be pregnant in the stand saying, yeah, baby, let's go. And you're going to be like, son of a bitch. What happened to my master plan of sending your buffalo wings to labor?
Extra spicy, baby.
It's like when I went to Zips and they're like, Johnny, I don't think you can handle these wings. And I said, I can do it.
Oh.
And subsequently, my mouth was on fire. But you guys have been fantastic here on a Football Friday. One more quick favor. Everybody like this video. Let's get it to 200 likes on a Football Friday. Would be chef's kiss. Again, supreme content.
I heard if we get it to 200 likes, McVay's going into labor.
I can't do it anymore. PHNX Sports is your go-to for Valley Sports. Again, like, I know there's a lot of questions about where can I access this, who's doing what's going on with this TV station. I'm going to tell you right now, pre-post game shows for your definitive Valley Sports teams. Coyotes looks like going to be 1-0 to start this year, knock on wood. We've got a post game coming up with Leah and company. Fabulous job. They've got a watch
along. You can actually jump over there right now. They're watching the game.
Check out the watch along. The Suns are an absolute wagon. The Diamondbacks are defying odds. Left
By the
way,
they're down 3-2. I know you just.
Oh my God! No, I just think how did they get? They were up 2-0. They're down. Coyotes are back, baby. If there's ever a sign, our precious Coyotes are back. Up 2-0. Now down 3-2. But again, instant analysis from Petey, Leah, and the rest of the crew. Fabulous job. Suns podcast. I mean, if you haven't checked out the Suns squad, they are locked and loaded for a championship run. And speaking of championships, Diamondbacks 2 series away from locking up an inexplicable yet well-deserved World Series title. And then you got a couple bros hanging out on a Football Friday. ASU, Wildcats, Rising, everything you want right here. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you at BetMGM this weekend.
We all silly like the mayor.